Recently in a video, I said that the Call of Duty community doesn't exist, that there is no, overarching Call of Duty community. Why would I say such a hurtful, mean thing? Well, unfortunately, it's because it's true. You see, a community is something that works together cohesively. They have the same values, ideals, and goals, and the means to accomplish them is usually found inside of the value structure held by groups of individuals that are, again, working cohesively towards a certain goal. Now, here in the United States, it might be the same in other places, but I don't get out much. A lot of times your state or your town will be referred to as a community. I know when I was growing up, there was always some local TV ad that said something along the lines of, "Help our growing community." But unfortunately, I've gotten older and realized that we're not really a community. We've sort of lost that sense of community as time has gone on. We're really isolated, more so than we used to be in the past. Local venues are really important for building a sense of community. Finding people with similar interests is great. I follow a website that tells me when people are having certain board and trading card game events in my local town. One day I'll muster up the courage and I'll stifle my social anxiety and go down to one and maybe actually make some friends. But, you know, if that ever happens, I'll probably be dead and someone will have taken over my body and controlled me to do that. But either way, you can find communities within your town. You can find groups of friends and refer to them as your community if you guys are working towards something or living within a certain value structure. But to just refer to everything as a community if it's next to each other, it's like, okay, everybody staying in this Best Western is a community and everybody working inside the Albertsons is a community. No. So community is sort of a broad term, and I don't want to be a super grammar Nazi. If you want to refer to your town as your community, fine, but unless you're actively working with the members of that town, the people, the individuals in that town towards a common goal, it's sort of hard to justify. This is sort of past the time, at least where I live, where everybody knows each other and we can all sort of pitch in and do things and get the barn up by sundown. No. In practicality, being a good member of a community just means not treating people like shit so that you don't get treated like shit and so that your community can prosper towards the common goal. Which the common goal is people not being assholes and things being prosperous. But most people aren't working in their communities. They have their friend groups, and you know, some of the best senses of community I've ever seen firsthand is in churches and other sort of religious gatherings, and even those have a certain level of individualistic vanity to them where some people try to just go there to be seen there, and that's never fun. They sort of ruin things for other people, and even though you'd expect everybody in the same church to have the same common goals and values, it's really weird when only the same group of people talk to each other in a large church and, you know, everybody else is just sort of there. It's sort of like a grocery store. If you bump into somebody you know, you say hi, but it's not really a community. By the way, what I'm saying here isn't a universal constant. All I'm saying is that even the people that go to the same church are individuals with their own social cliques and things like that. They don't always exhibit community-like behaviors. So, you can imagine how disjointed something as big as the Call of Duty player base would be. Look, this topic is more complex than myself, and maybe I'm completely talking out of my buttocks. I don't know. So if I don't know what a community is, you can let me know down in the comment section below. I'm willing to have conversations about this stuff. I'm really bad at talking about it. I've been talking about gaming for 5 years, talking about what makes your local community in your town a community. That's gonna get really subjective, and all of our anecdotes are just gonna pile on top of me like so many tons of weight, and I'll be crushed under them and die. So please give me some constructive feedback if you'd like to. But I might not know how to spot a community, but I definitely know how to spot the absence of one. So how did I spot the absence of community in the Call of Duty player base? Well, it's a shame, but nobody has a common goal. You might have a friend group, and that might be nice, but in my opinion, the only people that are really part of a Call of Duty community would be any groups of content creators that work to better each other and help each other out and get a message out there. You know, that would be a community. People that are working towards a common goal. Like, I would say that really hardcore big clan in Red Dead Online, I forget what their name is, but it's like 100 people, and they play Red Dead Redemption 2 like a LARP, and it's really cool. Even if their goal is just to have fun, it takes a lot of coordination and passion, and there's some sort of meshing of values and interests there that really seem like a community. Like the Milsim community in Battlefield. That's also one. They would go into hardcore servers, and they would have rule sets, and they'd communicate with each other through different Xbox or PlayStation parties or Discords or Skype calls back in the day, and they would coordinate these really cool Milsim matches. That's a community. There's some sort of common goal and interest there. But the Call of Duty community doesn't exist in the way people say it. I mean, again, if you're a group of content creators working together, you know, with common values and common goals to make certain things happen, that's one thing. Or maybe you're a pro player, a group of pro players that are trying to get better at the game, and you're helping each other out and everything. Okay, those could be considered communities, but in general, the Call of Duty community doesn't exist. So, why am I splitting hairs here? Obviously, when people say the COD community, they mean the people that play Call of Duty, right? I am getting tied up over semantics. Okay, no, it's not a community, it's the player base, but community rolls off the tongue better. COD community just sounds good. Okay, so why does this bother me? They use it in arguments. I've used it in arguments. My friends have used it in arguments. We really have this thing where we don't say the COD player base does blank, because there's subtext here. Player base implies a group of individuals that happen to play the game. What we mean when we say community is groups of people with a common goal, who are generally goal and value oriented in a certain direction. That's the only reason why the claim, the COD community doesn't know what it wants, has any weight. Because if you say the player base doesn't know what it wants, you say, well yeah, it's hundreds and thousands of individuals that all want different things. You say the community doesn't know what they want, well, that sounds like an entire congregation of a church who can't agree on how to pronounce Jesus. It's absurd, it's ridiculous. You see what I mean? Like, if you grabbed a bunch of different high school students from a bunch of different high schools and put them in a room together and said they don't get along and they don't have anything in common and they have different customs, it's like, well, yeah, that kind of makes sense. But if you took a bunch of kids from the same high school, they would be likely to have more in common because of the area they live in, probably close to the school. You get what I'm saying? So when you say the community doesn't do blank or doesn't understand blank or is hypocritical because first they say they want this, then they say they want this, you're treating them as an actually organized community or an actual organized group. And so it's so funny how hypocritical and stupid they are, right? But they're not. It's not the same people. I see things like, oh, the Call of Duty community wanted the games to be more realistic, and then when Modern Warfare came out, they flip-flopped and complained that it wasn't arcadey enough. No. There were groups of people asking for one thing, and groups of people that want something else. And these groups of people have varying volumes depending on what's going on. For instance, the group that's the happiest is going to be the quietest, because they're not going to go on Twitter to say, damn, I love Modern Warfare, unless they're trying to stir the pot, or, you know, it's just less likely. If you don't have anything to criticize, if you're not angry about something, then you're likely going to stay quiet about it and just play the damn game. But when you have criticisms, you voice them constantly. So it always seems like the Call of Duty community is beside itself and against itself, but in truth, it's just hundreds and hundreds of individuals constantly clamoring for their own interest. Like, for years, there were people that were saying, I hate the prestiging system in COD. I don't like prestiging, I think it's pointless, it takes up too much time. The moment the prestige system was taken out of Call of Duty, and in my opinion still has not returned, you get a lot of people talking about their love for the prestige system. They finally have a reason to mention it because it's not there. You can't get somebody to complain about the cheeseburger in front of them if they can't eat it fast enough. Maybe once they finish, they'll have their own criticisms, but not everybody's so critically minded. People keep their opinions to themselves if they're not too dire. So, yes, the Call of Duty community's voice always seems split because there's no communal voice. We love the idea of community. It's something that humans thrive on. I mean, if you listen to billionaires talk about what really made them happy, it wasn't business deals and money and women and all of that. It was people that they could trust. Tight circles of people that they could trust and rely on. That's what made them happy. This is an interesting idea. It's the reason that all of our storytelling revolves around somebody having to make friends with people, usually unlikely friends, that have some sort of common goal. Yeah, try and name a movie, book, comic, video game where the character has to team up with somebody or a group of somebodies towards a common goal. It's basic human longing, and I understand it, and people get very mad when you tell them that there is no Call of Duty community. But I do have an underlying nice thing to say here. Well, two things actually. First of all, you can chalk this up to semantics. Content for a video, but doesn't have much weight on how we actually speak. Community rolls off the tongue. The understanding that that community you're referring to is a ton of individuals with their own opinions and ideas is really what's important, and that's the point I'm trying to make. But the next part, the best part of all this, is that in this giant slew of players, you can form a community, a bond, friendships. You can do that. It's a magnificent thing that we are able to come together under the common interest of the franchise. Where the variance comes in is, well, do you like Treyarch CODs or Infinity Ward CODs or Sledgehammer CODs, zombies or multiplayer? How do you play multiplayer? Do you goof around? Do you play hardcore like it's like a realistic milsim? There's all these different variances. Yes, we all enjoy the franchise. We are all passionate about the franchise. We talk about the franchise, but everybody has their own drastically different set of opinions when it comes to the franchise. I mean, it's crazy to me that some people just see Call of Duty as a reason to play zombies. That's why they like COD. Or they just buy it for the campaigns. Or they only buy it to do competitive multiplayer. And I don't just mean versus like PvP, I mean competitive CDL, esports, MLG stuff all the time. That's why they buy it. So yes, form groups and friendships and communities within the player base, but don't assume that the Call of Duty community is one cohesive thing. So next time you hear somebody say, oh, everybody hated this, but they liked this, so they're hypocrites, unless you can find evidence of the same individuals doing that, what it likely is are people that had differing opinions from the start. I'll end this video with one example. I was listening to Moist Critical talk about Cyberpunk, and he was way off. He said that people were complaining too much about the amount of dialogue in Cyberpunk, but at the same time they were jerking off Witcher 3, and that game was full of dialogue. And my question is, how can you prove that? How can you prove that people absolutely adored The Witcher 3 and are just now complaining about the amount of dialogue in Cyberpunk? And also, is there more dialogue in Cyberpunk compared to Witcher? Is there maybe something different in the gameplay structure that would make them complain about that? But he dismissed it as, these people are hypocrites. It's so easy to do, because it just kind of makes you look like you're smarter than the crazy mess that is the internet. To summarize that point, just because people like The Witcher doesn't mean they can't find the amount of dialogue in Cyberpunk to be annoying. And unless Moist Critical can prove that these are the same people that love The Witcher 3 who are dissing on Cyberpunk, I don't mean the same subreddit, I mean the same individuals, then he's talking out of his ass, and we do it all the time without thinking about it. Democrat, Republican, Halo fans, Marvel fans, DC fans, Star Wars fans, they're not cohesive groups of people all moving to the same hive-minded goal. Stop treating them as if they're all supposed to have the same opinion and be consistent all the time. Let's try to respect people's individuality. Now, if I'm wrong about anything in this commentary, please correct me in the comment section below post haste. And I much require your feedback. But either way, thank you guys for coming by. See you when I see you. Oh, and God help you if your opinion ever changes over time. That's a whole different bag of baloney.